Queen Latifah had always been someone people looked up to. Her confidence, talent, and ability to handle tough situations made her a role model for many. On this particular morning, she was buzzing with excitement. She had spent months working on a new project, a powerful documentary about women who were breaking barriers in their fields. It was something close to her heart, and she couldn't wait to share it with the world. The talk show where she was scheduled to appear was one of the most popular morning programs in the country. People loved tuning in because it felt like sitting down with friends over coffee, light, fun, and sometimes inspiring. Queen Latifah arrived early, dressed impeccably, ready to talk about her passion project. As she stepped onto the set, the audience erupted into applause. She waved warmly, flashing her trademark smile that could light up any room. Backstage, though, there was an unusual buzz among the crew. Whispers floated around about a special guest who would join the panel later. No one seemed to know much, but the host had hinted at something big happening during the segment. Some thought it might be another celebrity making a surprise appearance. Others speculated it could be a major announcement. Whatever it was, it added an air of mystery to the day's show. As Queen Latifah took her seat, she noticed how calm everything seemed. The lights were bright, the cameras rolled smoothly, and the host greeted her with genuine enthusiasm. They exchanged pleasantries before diving into the usual questions about her career and the documentary. The conversation flowed naturally, and Queen Latifah answered each question with ease, sharing stories from behind the scenes of her filmmaking journey. But just as things started feeling routine, the host leaned forward slightly, his tone shifting, ever so subtly. "We have a special addition to our panel today," he announced, glancing toward the wings. A hush fell over the audience as all eyes turned to see who would walk out next. That's when she appeared, Karoline Leavitt, a journalist known for her bold investigative pieces. She carried herself with quiet determination, holding a folder tightly against her chest. When Karoline walked onto the stage, the energy in the room shifted. There was no fanfare, no flashy introduction, just her presence, which somehow commanded attention. Queen Latifah extended her hand politely, greeting her fellow guest with warmth. She assumed this would be another friendly discussion, maybe even a chance to highlight shared goals of empowering women through media. But deep down, something about the way Karoline held herself, a mix of resolve and restraint, made Queen Latifah pause for a split second. Little did she know, this meeting wasn't going to be ordinary. Something was coming, a revelation that would change the course of the interview and leave everyone watching stunned. For now, though, life went on as usual, or so it seemed. The calm before the storm stretched just a little longer, giving no hint of what was about to unfold. As the host introduced Karoline Leavitt, the audience clapped politely, unsure of what to expect. Karoline walked onto the stage with a quiet confidence that immediately caught everyone's attention. She wasn't flashy or over the top. Instead, she carried herself like someone who had done her homework and knew exactly why she was there. Her dark blazer and neatly tucked blouse gave her an air of professionalism, but it was her eyes that stood out. They were sharp, focused, and hinted at something brewing beneath the surface. When she reached the table, Queen Latifah greeted her warmly, extending her hand for a firm handshake. "It's great to meet you," Queen Latifah said, her voice steady and welcoming. Karoline returned the gesture, smiling briefly before taking her seat. The two exchanged pleasantries, but there was a subtle tension in the air, not hostile, but noticeable. It felt like both women were sizing each other up, though neither let it show too much. The host tried to keep things light, asking Karoline about her recent work. She nodded thoughtfully before answering, her tone measured and deliberate. "I've been focusing on investigative journalism lately," she explained, glancing at the folder she held tightly in her lap. "Stories that matter, ones that need to be told." Her words hung in the air for a moment, almost like a prelude to something bigger. The audience leaned forward slightly, sensing that this wasn't going to be just another casual chat. Queen Latifah listened intently, nodding along as Karoline spoke. She seemed relaxed, perhaps assuming this would be a routine discussion about media and storytelling. After all, they were both influential figures in their own right, and it made sense for them to share the stage. But then Karoline paused. For a brief second, she looked directly at Queen Latifah, her expression unreadable. It wasn't confrontational, but there was a seriousness in her gaze that sent a small ripple through the atmosphere. The host, picking up on the shift, asked Karoline if she wanted to elaborate on anything specific. That's when things began to take a turn. Instead of answering right away, Karoline placed the folder on the table in front of her. It was thick, filled with papers that looked meticulously organized. She tapped it lightly with her fingers, as if weighing her next move carefully. "Do have something I'd like to address today," Karoline said finally, her voice calm but firm. The energy in the room changed instantly. People stopped fidgeting in their seats. Even the crew behind the cameras seemed to freeze. Queen Latifah tilted her head slightly, curiosity flickering across her face. She didn't say anything yet, choosing instead to wait and see where this was going. Karoline glanced at the host, then back at Queen Latifah. "This is important," she continued, her tone now more serious. "And while it might not be easy to hear, I believe transparency is crucial, especially when it comes to issues affecting so many people." At this point, the audience was completely silent. You could hear a pin drop. Everyone knew something big was coming, but no one knew what. Queen Latifah maintained her composure, though her smile had faded slightly. She nodded slowly, encouraging Karoline to go on. Whatever reservations she might have felt in that moment, she didn't let them show. Years of being in the public eye had taught her how to stay calm under pressure, and she leaned into that experience now. Still, there was a flicker of unease in her eyes, a hint that she sensed the ground beneath her feet was about to shift. For Karoline, this was clearly a calculated move. She hadn't come here unprepared or uninvited. Every word she spoke was deliberate, every gesture purposeful. And as she sat there holding the folder that contained whatever bombshell she was about to drop, it was impossible not to wonder. What could possibly be inside? What story was she about to tell? And why? Had she chosen this moment, this platform, to reveal it? The tension was building layer by layer until it felt like the entire studio was holding its breath. The host, sensing the gravity of the situation, gently prompted Karoline to continue. "Go ahead," he said softly, his usual cheerful demeanor replaced by a more somber tone. "We're listening." And with that, the stage was set. The calm, friendly atmosphere that had defined the first few minutes of the interview was gone, replaced by something heavier, more charged. No one knew what was coming next. Not Queen Latifah, not the audience, not even the host. All they knew was that they were witnessing something extraordinary, something that would leave a lasting impression long after the cameras stopped rolling. The studio was so quiet you could hear the faint hum of the lights above. All eyes were on Karoline as she took a deep breath, her fingers still resting on the folder in front of her. The host gave her an encouraging nod, though his usual smile had faded into something closer to concern. Queen Latifah sat perfectly still, her expression calm but her eyes locked onto Karoline's face, trying to read what was coming next. "I want to start by saying that this isn't personal," Karoline began, her voice steady but softer now, almost like she was bracing herself for what she was about to say. "But sometimes uncovering the truth means addressing things that are uncomfortable, things that might challenge even those we admire." Queen Latifah tilted her head slightly, her brow furrowing just a fraction. She didn't interrupt, choosing instead to listen carefully. Whatever discomfort she might have been feeling, she kept it tucked away behind her composed exterior. Years of being in the spotlight had taught her how to handle surprises gracefully, but this moment felt different. There was a weight to Karoline's words that suggested the upcoming revelation wasn't going to be easy. Karoline opened the folder and pulled out a single sheet of paper. She held it up briefly before placing it back on the table. "This document outlines information I've uncovered during months of investigation," she explained. It involves a business deal connected to your production company. Her gaze shifted directly to Queen Latifah as she spoke, making it clear who she was addressing. For a split second, time seemed to freeze. Queen Latifah blinked, her mind racing to process what she'd just heard. Business deals? Investigations? This wasn't anything she had anticipated discussing today. She leaned forward slightly, her posture shifting from relaxed to alert. "Can you clarify what you're referring to?" she asked, her tone polite but firm. It was the kind of question that demanded answers without sounding defensive. Karoline nodded, taking another deep breath before continuing. "According to my research and these documents, there are allegations of practices within your company that raise ethical concerns. Specifically, there are claims of undisclosed financial arrangements that may not align with industry standards or transparency guidelines." The words hit like a thunderclap. The audience gasped audibly, some leaning forward in their seats while others exchanged shocked glances. Even the crew members operating the cameras paused for a fraction of a second, their movements faltering as they processed what they were hearing. Queen Latifah, however, remained outwardly composed. She didn't flinch or look away. Instead, she stared directly at Karoline, her expression unreadable. "Let me be clear," Karoline added quickly, perhaps sensing the gravity of the moment. "These are serious allegations, and I'm not here to make accusations lightly. My job is to report what I've found, based on evidence and credible sources. And if there's more to the story, if there's context I don't yet know, I encourage openness and dialogue to address it." The tension in the room was palpable. Queen Latifah finally broke her silence, her voice measured but tinged with emotion. "I appreciate the importance of transparency," she said, choosing her words carefully. "But I can tell you right now, these claims are surprising to me. If there's any issue, I assure you it will be looked into thoroughly." Her response was calm, professional, and left no room for unnecessary drama. Still, the shock of the moment lingered in the air. The host, clearly caught off guard, tried to steer the conversation gently. "This is certainly unexpected," he admitted, glancing between the two women. "Do you mind elaborating further on the specifics?" Karoline hesitated for a moment, then shook her head. "I don't think it's appropriate to dive into all the details here," she replied. "What matters most is acknowledging the issue and allowing space for accountability and resolution." Queen Latifah nodded slowly, her demeanor unwavering despite the whirlwind unfolding around her. She turned toward the camera, speaking directly to the audience. "To my fans and supporters, I want to say this. I take integrity very seriously, both personally and professionally. If there's any truth to these allegations, I'll work tirelessly to ensure everything is handled properly. But until then, I ask for patience and understanding." Her words carried a sense of authority and sincerity, resonating with viewers who were glued to their screens. For many, this was the first time they'd seen Queen Latifah confronted with such a public challenge, and her ability to stay composed under pressure only reinforced why she was admired by so many. As the segment continued, the atmosphere remained charged. The audience watched intently, hanging on every word. Some whispered among themselves, speculating about what this could mean. Others simply stared, stunned by the turn of events. Meanwhile, Karoline sat quietly, her expression resolute. She had delivered her message, and now it was up to Queen Latifah and the world to respond. By the time the commercial break rolled around, the studio buzzed with nervous energy. Backstage, producers scrambled to assess the situation, knowing full well that this interview would dominate headlines for days to come. For Queen Latifah, the road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: she wasn't backing down. As the commercial break began, the studio erupted into a flurry of activity. The cameras cut off, but the tension in the room didn't fade. It only grew thicker. Audience members whispered frantically to one another, their voices rising as they tried to piece together what they had just witnessed. Some looked at Queen Latifah with sympathy, while others glanced toward Karoline, unsure whether to admire her boldness or question her timing. Even the crew, who were used to handling unpredictable live TV moments, seemed rattled. One cameraman muttered under his breath, "Did that really just happen?" Queen Latifah sat quietly in her chair, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. From the outside she appeared calm, almost eerily so, but those close enough could see the subtle signs of strain. Her jaw was set firmly, and her knuckles turned white from gripping her fingers together. She wasn't crying or panicking. Instead, she seemed to be processing everything methodically, like someone trying to solve a puzzle mid-storm. Every now and then she'd glance down at the table in front of her, as if searching for answers written somewhere invisible. Karoline, on the other hand, remained stoic. She leaned back slightly in her seat, her arms crossed over her chest, exuding an air of quiet determination. Unlike Queen Latifah, she didn't seem shaken by the weight of the moment. If anything, she looked prepared for whatever came next. A producer approached her briefly during the break, whispering something urgent into her ear. Karoline nodded without hesitation, her expression unchanging. Whatever advice or warning they gave her didn't faze her in the slightest. The host, meanwhile, was visibly struggling to regain control of the situation. He paced behind his desk, muttering instructions to the production team. "We need to keep it professional when we come back," he said firmly, though his voice betrayed a hint of anxiety. "No more surprises, okay? Let's focus on giving both sides a chance to speak." His words were practical, but there was no denying the elephant in the room. The bombshell Karoline had dropped was already ricocheting far beyond the confines of the studio. When the show returned from the break, the energy was different. The light-hearted banter that usually filled these segments was gone, replaced by a somber tone. The host opened cautiously, addressing the audience directly. "Clearly, this is a sensitive topic, and I want to remind everyone watching that today's conversation is about transparency and accountability. We're here to listen, learn, and hopefully understand." His attempt to frame the discussion felt sincere, but it did little to ease the tension. As soon as he turned the floor back over to Karoline, the room braced itself again. This time, Karoline spoke with even more conviction. "I know this isn't easy to hear," she said, looking straight at Queen Latifah. "But sometimes, difficult truths need to come to light. My goal isn't to attack anyone, it's to ensure fairness and honesty for everyone involved." Queen Latifah listened intently, her face softening slightly as Karoline spoke. When it was her turn to respond, she chose her words carefully. "I respect your commitment to truth," she said, her voice steady but tinged with emotion. "And I promise you I'll do everything in my power to get to the bottom of this. But let me be clear. I've built my career on integrity and I won't let baseless claims define me." Her response struck a chord with the audience. Some people nodded approvingly, while others exchanged skeptical glances. The divide was clear. Some believed Queen Latifah deserved the benefit of the doubt, while others thought Karoline's allegations warranted serious attention. Social media exploded almost instantly. Clips of the interview flooded platforms, sparking heated debates. Viewers tweeted their reactions in real time, using hashtags like #transparency matters and accountability first. Memes and commentary spread rapidly, turning the incident into a trending topic worldwide. Back in the studio, the host tried valiantly to steer the conversation toward resolution. "Both of you have made compelling points," he interjected at one point, attempting to bridge the gap between the two women. "Is there any way forward where concerns can be addressed without causing harm?" It was a noble effort, but neither side budged much. Karoline reiterated the importance of transparency, while Queen Latifah emphasized her dedication to resolving the matter fairly. By the end of the segment, exhaustion was evident on both women's faces. Queen Latifah took a deep breath before delivering her closing remarks. "I want to thank everyone for listening," she said, addressing the audience directly. "This has been a challenging moment, but I believe challenges can lead to growth. I'll address these allegations fully after taking the time to investigate them myself. Until then, I ask for patience and trust. in my ability to handle this responsibly." Her words carried weight, and many viewers found themselves moved by her grace under pressure. Karoline, too, offered a final statement, reiterating her role as a journalist committed to uncovering the truth. "My intentions are pure," she said simply. "If this sparks meaningful change, then it will have been worth it." As the credits rolled and the audience began filing out, the ripple effects of the interview continued to spread. For Queen Latifah, the hardest part was yet to come. She retreated backstage, surrounded by her team, who immediately began strategizing how to manage the fallout. Meanwhile, Karoline stepped outside the studio, greeted by reporters eager for sound bites. The world now awaited their next moves, knowing full well that this story was far from over. Within minutes of the interview ending, the internet exploded. Clips of the tense exchange between Queen Latifah and Karoline spread like wildfire across every major social media platform. People couldn't stop talking about what they had just witnessed, a live confrontation that felt more like a scene from a movie than real life. The hashtag Queen Latifah Exposed started trending almost instantly, alongside others like Karoline Truth and Live TV Moment. Everyone had an opinion and no one was holding back. On Twitter, users dissected every word, every pause, and every facial expression from the two women. Some tweets praised Queen Latifah for her composure under pressure, calling her response classy and graceful. Others pointed fingers at Karoline, accusing her of sensationalism or questioning why she chose to drop such a bombshell during a live broadcast. One user wrote, "Why ambush someone on national TV? Isn't there a better way to handle this?" Meanwhile, Karoline's supporters argued that she was simply doing her job as a journalist, emphasizing the importance of exposing potential wrongdoing, even if it made people uncomfortable. Instagram stories were flooded with screenshots of the interview, accompanied by captions ranging from outrage to admiration. Memes began popping up too, capturing the shock and drama of the moment in exaggerated caricatures. One popular meme showed Queen Latifah sitting calmly, while a lightning bolt labeled Karoline struck the stage next to her. Another depicted Karoline holding a folder with the words "plot twist" written boldly across it. These lighthearted takes provided comic relief, but also underscored how deeply the story had resonated with audiences. YouTube wasn't far behind. Within hours, reaction videos from commentators and influencers flooded the platform. Some analyzed Queen Latifah's body language, pointing out how she maintained eye contact with Karoline, even when the allegations hit hardest. Others broke down Karoline's delivery, debating whether her tone came off as confrontational or professional. View counts skyrocketed as fans tuned in to hear different perspectives on the unfolding drama. Behind the scenes, Queen Latifah's team scrambled to respond. Her publicist worked tirelessly to craft a statement addressing the allegations without escalating the situation further. They knew the stakes were high. This wasn't just about defending her reputation, it was about protecting the trust she had built over decades in the industry. In the meantime, calls poured in from friends, colleagues, and concerned fans offering support. Queen Latifah listened quietly, thanking each person for their kindness, but keeping her own emotions tightly guarded. For Karoline, the aftermath was equally intense, but in a different way. Reporters hounded her for follow-up interviews, eager to get more details about the investigation she mentioned on air. She gave brief comments here and there, always careful not to reveal too much while still standing by her claims. "I understand the scrutiny," she told one interviewer later that evening. "But my focus is on ensuring accountability. That's all I care about." As the day wore on, news outlets picked up the story, turning it into headline news. Talk shows debated whether Karoline's actions were justified or reckless. Late-night hosts joked about the unexpected twist, using humor to process the chaos. Meanwhile, online petitions began circulating, one demanding an independent inquiry into the allegations and another supporting Queen Latifah against what some called a public attack. Amidst the frenzy, ordinary viewers found themselves divided. Friends argued over dinner tables, families texted heated opinions back and forth, and co-workers gathered around water coolers to share their thoughts. For many, the incident sparked larger conversations about ethics, transparency, and the role of journalism in holding powerful figures accountable. Was it fair to call out someone so publicly without giving them prior notice? Or was this exactly what investigative reporting was meant to do? By nightfall, the story had taken on a life of its own. Queen Latifah retreated to her home, surrounded by her closest advisors. She spent hours reviewing the footage of the interview, trying to pinpoint where things might have gone wrong, or if there was any truth to Karoline's claims. Exhaustion crept in, but she refused to let herself fall apart. Instead, she focused on planning her next steps, determined to address the situation head-on. Karoline, too, reflected on the day's events. Despite the backlash, she felt a sense of purpose. She believed she had done the right thing, even if it meant facing criticism. As she scrolled through her phone, reading comments both supportive and hostile, she reminded herself why she became a journalist in the first place: to shine a light on issues others might ignore. The world waited anxiously for answers, unsure of who to believe. But one thing was certain: the ripple effects of that morning's interview would be felt for weeks, months, maybe even years to come. What started as a routine talk show appearance had turned into a cultural moment, sparking debates, dividing opinions, and leaving everyone wondering, what happens next? The moment Queen Latifah stepped into her private dressing room after the show, she let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. For hours, she had maintained her composure under the bright studio lights. But now, away from the cameras and the audience, the weight of everything hit her like a tidal wave. She sank into a chair, her head in her hands, trying to steady herself. Her team, her publicist, manager, and a few trusted advisors rushed in moments later, their faces etched with concern. Her phone buzzed non-stop on the table beside her, lighting up with notifications from reporters, friends, and fans. Social media was ablaze, and every news outlet seemed to have an opinion about what had happened. The room felt suffocating despite its quietness. "We need to act fast," her publicist said firmly, pacing back and forth. "This is going viral, and we can't afford to stay silent for long." Queen Latifah nodded slowly, lifting her head to meet their eyes. "I know," she replied, her voice calm but tinged with exhaustion. "But I won't rush into anything without thinking it through. We need to get all the facts first." Her words carried authority, a reminder that even in moments of crisis, she was still the leader of her own ship. Her manager handed her a tablet loaded with clips of the interview, social media reactions, and early headlines. As much as she wanted to avoid reliving the moment, she knew she couldn't afford to ignore it. She watched snippets of the interview again, pausing at certain points to analyze Karoline's delivery and her own responses. "Do you think there's any truth to what she said?" her manager asked cautiously, breaking the silence. Queen Latifah hesitated before answering. "I don't know," she admitted honestly. "But if there's even a shred of validity to those claims, I want to address it immediately. My reputation means everything to me, not just professionally but personally. If I've made mistakes, I'll own up to them. But I won't let baseless accusations define me." Her team sprang into action, dividing tasks among themselves. One person began drafting a formal statement. Another reached out to legal experts to review the documents Karoline mentioned during the interview. Meanwhile, Queen Latifah retreated further into thought. She replayed the events in her mind, searching for any red flags she might have missed. Had she overlooked something? Was there a misstep within her company that could have led to these allegations? The questions swirled endlessly, each one heavier than the last. Across town, Karoline sat in her apartment, surrounded by papers and notes scattered across her dining table. Her phone buzzed incessantly too, though for different reasons. Journalists were calling nonstop, eager for exclusive follow-ups or insider details. Supporters praised her courage, while critics accused her of overstepping boundaries. Despite the noise, Karoline remained focused. She believed in the importance of what she had done, even if it came at a personal cost. She opened her laptop and began reviewing the files again, double-checking her research to ensure she hadn't missed anything. Every claim she made had been backed by evidence, but she knew the scrutiny would only intensify. "If they dig deeper, so will I," she muttered to herself, determined not to back down. She also drafted responses to some of the criticism, explaining her decision to reveal the allegations live on TV. "Sometimes shining a light requires bold moves," she wrote in one message. "I stand by my actions because accountability matters." Back in Queen Latifah's dressing room, the atmosphere shifted as her team gathered around her once more. They presented her with a draft of the statement they planned to release, a carefully worded message addressing the allegations while reaffirming her commitment to transparency. Queen Latifah read it twice, making minor adjustments to reflect her voice more clearly. "It needs to feel genuine," she explained. "People deserve honesty, not spin." Finally, late that night, the statement went public. In it, Queen Latifah acknowledged the seriousness of the allegations and promised a thorough investigation. She expressed gratitude for the support she'd received while reiterating her dedication to integrity. "If there are issues within my company, I will work tirelessly to resolve them," she wrote. "But I will not tolerate baseless attacks against my character or legacy." The response was immediate. Fans flooded social media with messages of encouragement, praising her for handling the situation with grace. Critics, however, continued to demand answers, questioning whether the statement was enough. Meanwhile, Karoline gave a brief interview to a major news outlet standing firmly by her claims. "I'm not here to destroy anyone," she said. "I'm here to ensure fairness and accountability. That's all this is about." As the clock ticked past midnight, both women prepared for the battles ahead. Queen Latifah spent hours strategizing with her team, mapping out steps to investigate the allegations thoroughly. Karoline reviewed her findings one final time, ready to defend her position no matter what came next. Though worlds apart, they shared a common thread: determination. Neither of them slept much that night. The stakes were too high, the pressure too intense. Yet, amidst the chaos, both found strength in their convictions. For Queen Latifah, it was a chance to prove her resilience and commitment to doing right. For Karoline, it was an opportunity to stand by her principles, even when the world pushed back. As dawn broke, the world woke up to a new chapter in the unfolding drama, one filled with unanswered questions, mounting tensions, and the promise of resolution. Whatever happened next, one thing was clear: neither woman was backing down anytime soon. The days following the explosive interview felt like a whirlwind for everyone involved. Queen Latifah's life, typically marked by routine and control, was suddenly thrown into chaos. Her schedule, a carefully balanced mix of work commitments, personal time, and creative projects, was upended as she focused all her energy on addressing the allegations. Canceling appearances and postponing meetings became necessary, not out of fear or avoidance, but because she needed space to navigate the storm head-on. Her team worked around the clock, setting up an independent investigation led by a reputable firm known for its impartiality. They combed through financial records, contracts, and internal communications within her production company. It wasn't just about clearing her name, it was about ensuring that every aspect of her business operated above board. Queen Latifah insisted on full transparency, even if it meant uncovering uncomfortable truths. "If there's something wrong, I want to know," she told her advisors firmly. "Fixing problems starts with acknowledging them." Meanwhile, the public continued to weigh in. Online forums buzzed with debates over accountability versus sensationalism. Some supporters rallied behind Queen Latifah, sharing stories of how her work had inspired them over the years. Others questioned whether her success had made her untouchable, arguing that no one should be exempt from scrutiny. For every heartfelt message of support, there were harsh criticisms dissecting her response or lack thereof to Karoline's claims. Karoline, too, faced a barrage of mixed reactions. While many praised her bravery for tackling such a high-profile figure, others accused her of grandstanding for attention. Late-night comedians joked about the confrontation, turning it into punchlines. One sketch showed a mock version of the interview where the host kept interrupting with increasingly absurd distractions to lighten the tension. Despite the humor, the underlying seriousness of the situation lingered. Amidst the noise, both women remained steadfast in their positions. Queen Latifah released a heartfelt video statement directly to her fans, speaking candidly about the emotional toll of the past few days. Sitting in her home office, dressed casually but elegantly, she looked straight into the camera. "This has been one of the hardest weeks of my career," she admitted, her voice steady, but tinged with vulnerability. "But I'm not afraid of hard work or hard truths. If mistakes have been made, I'll fix them. If they haven't, I'll prove it." She went on to explain the steps being taken to investigate the allegations, emphasizing her willingness to cooperate fully. "I've spent my life building trust with my audience, my colleagues, and myself. I won't let unfounded accusations take that away." The sincerity in her words resonated deeply with viewers, many of whom commented that her authenticity reminded them why they admired her in the first place. Karoline, on the other hand, doubled down on her stance during interviews and opinion pieces. She addressed critics who called her actions reckless, explaining that waiting for the perfect moment often meant waiting too long. "When you uncover something significant, you can't sit on it," she said during a live TV appearance. "Yes, it was uncomfortable. Yes, it was unexpected. But sometimes the truth demands urgency. My job isn't to make people comfortable, it's to hold power accountable." Despite their opposing perspectives, neither woman came across as bitter or vindictive. Instead, they seemed driven by conviction, each standing firm in their beliefs. This mutual resolve only added to the intrigue surrounding the case. People began speculating about what might happen next: an eventual apology, a legal battle, or perhaps a resolution that left both sides satisfied. As the investigation progressed, small details trickled out to the press. Initial reports suggested minor discrepancies in some financial arrangements, though nothing outright illegal. These findings sparked more questions than answers. Was this simply a case of oversight, or did it point to deeper systemic issues within the industry? The ambiguity kept the story alive in the headlines, with commentators weighing in daily. Behind closed doors, Queen Latifah grappled with the weight of leadership. Running a successful production company required difficult decisions, and while she trusted her team, she couldn't ignore the possibility of oversight slipping through the cracks. She spent hours reviewing documents alongside her lawyers, asking tough questions and pushing for clarity. "If we messed up, we own it," she told her staff during a private meeting. "But we also protect our integrity at all costs." For Karoline, the experience reinforced her belief in the importance of investigative journalism. Though she faced backlash, she refused to second-guess her decision to go public. In quieter moments, she reflected on the risks journalists take when exposing powerful figures. "Not everyone will agree with me," she wrote in a reflective essay published online, "but staying silent would have been worse. Accountability matters, even when it's messy." By the end of the week, the initial shock began to fade, replaced by cautious optimism. Both women had weathered the immediate fallout with resilience and poise. Fans eagerly awaited updates, hoping for closure that honored fairness and justice. And while tensions still lingered, there was a growing sense that this chapter might lead to meaningful change, for Queen Latifah, for Karoline, and for the broader conversation about ethics and accountability in entertainment. As the dust slowly settled, one truth became undeniable. Neither woman would emerge from this unscathed, but both stood poised to grow stronger because of it. Weeks passed, and the whirlwind that had consumed Queen Latifah and Karoline began to settle into something more manageable. The independent investigation concluded its review of Queen Latifah's production company, releasing a detailed report that painted a clearer picture of what had happened, or rather what hadn't. While there were minor oversights in record-keeping and some areas flagged for improvement, nothing amounted to unethical practices or intentional wrongdoing. It was far from perfect, but it wasn't the scandal many had feared. Queen Latifah wasted no time addressing the findings publicly. She held a press conference flanked by her team, where she took full responsibility for any mistakes made under her leadership. "No one is above scrutiny," she said, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. "And if this experience has taught me anything, it's that even the best systems need constant vigilance. I'm committed to making sure these oversights don't happen again. She outlined specific steps her company would take to improve transparency, hiring additional compliance officers, implementing stricter auditing processes, and creating an open-door policy for employees to raise concerns without fear of retaliation. Her sincerity resonated with fans and critics alike, many of whom praised her willingness to learn and grow from the situation. For someone who had spent decades building trust, this moment reaffirmed why people admired her so deeply. Karoline, too, reflected on the aftermath. Though some accused her of overreach, others applauded her courage in holding powerful figures accountable. In interviews, she acknowledged the controversy surrounding her methods, but stood firmly behind her decision. I knew going live with those allegations would spark debate, and maybe even backlash. But accountability isn't always convenient, she explained during a televised appearance. If we shy away from hard truths because they're uncomfortable, we risk losing sight of what journalism is meant to do: serve the public interest. Interestingly, the two women found themselves united, not as allies, but as individuals who shared a common goal: transparency. Neither shied away from admitting their imperfections, which only strengthened their credibility in the eyes of the public. Some commentators noted how rare it was to see such grace under pressure, especially when reputations were on the line. Both Queen Latifah and Karoline handled the situation with dignity, refusing to let anger or bitterness overshadow their principles. The incident also sparked broader conversations about ethics in the entertainment industry. Panel discussions popped up across media platforms, exploring how companies could better ensure fairness and transparency. Viewers engaged passionately, sharing stories of similar experiences or offering suggestions for systemic improvements. What started as a personal confrontation between two women evolved into a catalyst for change, a reminder that even difficult moments can inspire progress. For Queen Latifah, life slowly returned to normal, or at least as close to normal as possible after such a high-profile ordeal. She resumed work on her documentary, pouring her energy into telling stories that uplifted and empowered others. The project took on new meaning now, serving as both a professional endeavor and a testament to resilience. Fans noticed a subtle shift in her demeanor. She seemed more reflective, more grounded, as if the experience had deepened her perspective. Karoline continued her career in investigative journalism, earning recognition for her bold approach to storytelling. She became a sought-after speaker, addressing audiences about the importance of truth-telling in an era dominated by misinformation. Her work inspired aspiring journalists to pursue challenging stories, reminding them that courage often came before comfort. In the months that followed, whispers of reconciliation between the two women surfaced. While neither confirmed nor denied reports of private meetings, insiders hinted that they had spoken candidly about the incident. Whatever transpired behind closed doors seemed to soften the edges of their public standoff. During an awards ceremony later that year, cameras caught Queen Latifah exchanging warm words with Karoline backstage. The interaction was brief but meaningful, a nod to mutual respect earned through adversity. Ultimately, the story served as a powerful reminder of humanity's ability to rise above conflict. Queen Latifah emerged stronger, proving that true strength lies not in avoiding challenges but in facing them head-on. Karoline solidified her place as a fearless journalist, willing to ask tough questions, even when the answers weren't easy to hear. Together, they demonstrated that growth often comes from discomfort, and accountability can lead to transformation. As the world moved forward, the legacy of their encounter lingered, not as a tale of rivalry, but as a testament to resilience, integrity, and the enduring power of truth. And while the headlines eventually faded, the lessons learned remained etched in the hearts and minds of those who witnessed it all unfold.